Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. Look, it was a really interesting game to analyze at the end. The only thing that matters is that a tidal wave of Texas A&M football overwhelmed LSU in the last quarter and a half of the game. Like, that's the most important thing. You lost the game. You've lost the ability to control your own destiny in the Southeastern Conference. Your playoff hopes are dwindling to very little. And, that's the most important thing. But if we're going to actually analyze the entirety of the ball game, I think it's interesting because for the last 8 minutes of the third quarter and the entirety of the fourth quarter, A&M did whatever they wanted running the ball. They had 5 drives, albeit with good field position, and they scored 5 times, 4 touchdowns, and a field goal. LSU threw 3 interceptions, and it was a bloodbath for the entirety of that portion of the game. LSU had one surge and a drive that looked like they were going to potentially hang around, and A&M immediately hit the 50-yarder and went back down and scored a touchdown, and the ball game was over. And that was the most impactful part of the game. But what I was talking about on the post-game show on the LSU Sports Radio Network is, it's almost hard to put yourself back to the way that you were feeling when Garrett Nussmeier rolled out to his left and threw that first interception, because up to that point, LSU had completely controlled the game. LSU was moving the ball through the air. LSU was doing a great job defensively of limiting Texas A&M's ground game. They were harassing Connor Wigman. He had no chance back there at all. And at that point, you had a 10-point lead, and that was really the worst it could have been if you're LSU. You had 3 field goals that went poorly, and you squandered those opportunities, but you still had a 2-score lead halfway through.
It's time for Hunt's opening.
The third.
I got
quarter.
it.
I guess you found it, didn't you?
Yep.
I didn't know. Sometimes whenever that happens and it goes in my ear, I don't know.
You don't know if it's on. Yeah, that was on air.
Yeah,
it was. It was.
So, all right. Well, it is our
Happy
opening
Monday.
drive. Thank you for that, Beck. And they were playing great. And then every issue that you have under the surface absolutely got exposed. What's LSU's biggest 2 issues offensively? An inability to run the ball and a quarterback that will put the ball in harm's way sometimes. Well, you couldn't run the ball at all. After the first quarter, you had 2 rushing yards. None in the second half. Could not run it at all. And your quarterback put the ball in harm's way. The throw across his body down the field for the first interception was ill-advised and not very well executed. Then he started feeling a little bit spooked. He missed some easy open throws that he almost always makes. And he put the ball in harm's way a couple more times, whether it was the scheme that fooled him or quality plays and reads by the Texas A&M defense. You throw the out route for a pick, and then you've got the one where you've got a running back that's slipping out late in desperation time, and Nussmeier didn't see the guy fading back into coverage. But those have been your issues, and they showed up. And then defensively, you didn't deal with a mobile quarterback. I wanted to, at some point last week, talk about the potential for Marcel Reed to come in. Because all week we did talk about Connor Wigman's schizophrenia. And I had a feeling, based on the way that LSU had played on defense the last 2 games against Ole Miss and Arkansas, that they were coming on. I had a feeling that LSU would play really well against Connor Wigman. And that's why I picked LSU to win by 2 scores. And when Connor Wigman came out of the game, LSU was winning by 2 scores. And we didn't talk about whether or not LSU could handle Marcel Reed. And the truth of the matter is, if you were just to go back 7 days, I realized that Taylon Green wasn't 100%, but he was out there and he was trying to move around a little bit. And LSU's defense played really well. They shut down an Arkansas running game that's created more explosive runs than anybody in the Southeastern Conference. And LSU only allowed 1 of those last week. So it stood to reason that the Tigers would do a pretty good job up front. And they got absolutely annihilated. Annihilated up front. And at that point, you couldn't reverse the tide. I don't know how much time LSU spent on Marcel Reed. It's been a very, very common theme and narrative in LSU fan base in the last 48 hours. So, well, they didn't prepare for the running quarterback. And they may not have. I don't know. I wasn't there. It just seems that a lot of people are absolute in their feeling that that's certainly the case. I don't know how often you prepare for a backup quarterback in a game week, especially when it's not coming off of a bye week or it hasn't been a 2-quarterback system the majority of the season. Yes, Marcel Reed did play in 3 games when Connor Wigman went down. He started those 3 games, but since Wigman came back against Missouri and Mississippi State, even in a game against Mississippi State where he struggled, they did not go to Marcel Reed. I asked Brandon Taylor and Marlon Favorite on the post-game show on Saturday, like, how much time do you think they spent on him? And they said they were aware of him, but probably not a ton. But it wasn't like Marcel Reed came out and was showing something that no one's ever seen before. Like, if you hadn't prepared for Darren McFadden's Wildcat offense when Gus Malzahn unleashed that, I mean, that's something that you would not know is coming. The read option, pretty common in college football. And that's what Marcel Reed was running. He was running a read option. There wasn't anything super tricky about it. What it was an A&M offensive line that lined up, whipped your butt, and a quarterback that did a good job of understanding when he needed to keep it and when he needed to give it. And LSU's front 7 couldn't stand up. And if you would have told me in August that would be the case, that Jacoby and Gillard would go down and Harold Perkins would go down and Texas A&M would show up in the second half and run right at you, I'd have said, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know if Gio Paez and Ahmad Bro and Don McKinley and Paris Shand are ready to stand up to that rushing attack. That's probably the sore spot on this LSU team. That made sense in August. But against Ole Miss and Arkansas, LSU did a pretty good job with the running quarterback. Now, I realize what I'm about to say, so don't go nuts and overreact to it. It's just another data point. But, like, LSU did a great job against a running quarterback against South Alabama. I got it. It's South Alabama. Not the same. I know. But it's the same type of scheme. It's an assignment deal. So my point in saying that is it's not like their heads should have been spinning, and I don't know if they were spinning. I think they got physically whipped. I don't think LSU was grossly underprepared to stop a read option quarterback. It's assignment football. They didn't reinvent the running game. I just think you got beat. And that's concerning and it's disappointing, but it was pretty easy to watch. And when you go on the road and you play a good team, which Texas A&M is a good team. There's a direct quote from me on Friday. I don't think Texas A&M is that good. I said that on the show. You can check the tape. I'll bring it right back up to you. And with Connor Wigman on the field, their offense is not good because he's not very good. But they have a good offensive line and a couple of good running backs, and Marcel Reed ran that offense masterfully. He only attempted 2 throws. You couldn't take away the bread and butter, and if you're not going to take it away, it's just going to keep coming. And that put LSU in a position where they became one-dimensional on offense, and that one dimension is throwing it, and it's all they could do. And Texas A&M has a good pass rush, and they got after it, and Nussmeier started getting spooked a little bit, and that crowd got into the game, and it was lights out after that. Absolutely lights out. So it was a really solid performance for LSU for 35, 37 minutes of game time. And then at that point, the last 20 minutes were a disaster. And LSU could not overcome that. It was an avalanche of Aggie football that LSU just wasn't prepared for. So that's the big picture of this loss to Texas A&M. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.